What the hell happened to my camera? This looks like your camera's been unplugged. Plug it back in. All right. Let me try that. Oh, what's up, guys? What is up? All right. What is going on with my damn camera? There we go. What's crack-a-lagging?
Summer's here.
We are in for a treat today because we've got Renegade Wingman in the house, and he's normally not able to make it because he's in the PST, and he's been kind enough not to go to bed yet, just to grace us with his presence today.
Pretty much, we're getting back, and I was like, oh, it's only about an hour before the show starts. Yeah, let's make it happen. Let's check it with the guys, make sure everything's run smooth.
My man. I mean, look, if you want to start earlier, if you're out this late every Friday night, we can accommodate you and kick off a little earlier, man.
Okay, well, good to know. Good to know. I do appreciate that.
Options on the table.
All right.
All right. So how's everybody doing today, man?
I'm happy.
Doing good.
Good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So something just came across my plate here. I wanted to talk about briefly. Do you guys know who the fitness influencer Joe Aesthetics is?
Yeah.
Apparently he just died.
Whoa. That's unfortunate.
He is a 30-year-old German fitness influencer, massive following. Joe Linden, correct. Yeah. Noel Diesel. I think he's a South African bodybuilder. He's got a massive following as well on social media. Just made a post about it, but of course the reason hasn't been explained yet, but could be heavy use of anabolics, hearts tied into that, maybe jabbed at some point experimentally, don't know, but sad for his family. Yeah, you gotta be careful out there, guys, with your body. It's one of those things that can expire early, and the bodybuilding community has a knack for erasing men earlier than they should be.
There are a lot of organ issues with the bodybuilding community, aren't there?
Yeah, if you abuse, here, I'll grab the Instagram post so you guys can see it. But if you abuse steroids, it can have, negative effects. This is him on the right over here. He's, I think, 182 centimeters and about 100 kilograms. So not a small dude, but not a monster either. Noel here is a lot bigger, actually. He's probably at least 40 or 50 pounds heavier. But yeah, this dude on the right, dead, 30, boom. It happens a lot in that space, in that community, quicker than you know it. But rest in peace, my man.
Also, the source of the juice is very important. I have a bit of a anecdote here because I ordered some stuff and got it from a new supplier. Mm-hmm. Turns out the testosterone wasn't actually testosterone; it was trenbolone. So, yeah, massive improvement. Yeah,
did ever
massive improvement in strength. Yeah. But since I usually go for low dose, so I thought I was doing testosterone. I was actually doing trenbolone. I noticed the anger issues, the sleep, the coughing, and I immediately got off it. It takes about a week and a half to flush out.
You gotta be careful with underground lab stuff, man. I don't know if I told you guys the story. Oh no, it was what? Where? From where?
It was from a factory in China.
Well, that's pretty much the same thing, man, because trenbolone is not manufactured by pharmaceutical companies for human consumption.
Yep, I'm here.
No. I said, let's go here. I'm just talking this through.
Yeah, I'm just going to mute you, recent convert, just because you're on a phone call there. I was going to say, I'm not sure if I told you guys this story, but there was this gal that I dated in my 20s, and she was telling me how she used to homebrew gear with her ex-boyfriend in their basement. And it was revealed that they didn't actually produce anything that was real. They used to use peanut oil and just put it in vials to make it look like gear and sell it to people. So people were injecting peanut oil in their ass. It had absolutely no anabolic properties whatsoever. And just imagine if you were allergic to peanut oil, or if you're allergic to peanuts and you injected that shit thinking you're taking gear.
You get a free Brazilian butt lift.
Yeah, definitely have a certain reaction to it. Could even be worse than that, but yeah.
Yeah, this wasn't an underground web. This is like a factory. I got it from somebody.
China, though. China.
Yeah.
It came from China. You have to be careful with that shit, dude.
Hey, speaking of crap from that part of the world, I watched the movie last week about BlackBerry, your renowned Canadian company.
Yeah, what's the scoop on that?
Well, when they try to modernize and they send stuff out to get manufactured in China, the BlackBerry Storm, when they got it back, every single one of them was defective. Every one of them. Yeah. I mean, they're a case study now in Harvard Business School and in oh God, what's the famous business school in Pennsylvania? Anyway, they're a case study in how not to manage a company when you have a gigantic share of the market.
Yeah, there's certain things you want to make in China. There's certain things you don't want to make in China if you don't have control over it. Apple seems to have figured it out, though.
Yeah, they got that down to a T.
So, Renegade, what's going on in your world, man? We're not graced with your presence that often. I want to hear what's up with you, dude.
Yeah, been busy, a lot of travel, so that's been eating up a lot of the time. So being in different time zones, bouncing back between East Coast and West Coast, as well as hopping over to Europe. So I'm actually like in a little bit of a travel lull before I go back to Europe. I'll be back out there for a week, but it'll be good. Do a little trip out there and then come back, hang out on the East Coast for a little bit, and then make my way back west and get a little bit settled. But there's a couple of events that I have coming up throughout the rest of the year that are going to be taking me back to the East Coast. So that's definitely been good, but also just been very, in kind of like that focus mode. So it's this year, the theme of this year has been kind of one of those snowball years where it's a little bit of build. And then the momentum kind of carries things forward and avalanches a bit. So right now it's a little bit of a building phase, and the avalanche is looking like it's probably going to start kicking off in about 4 weeks now. So it's been good. But yeah, definitely been a very, very busy time for sure. And it's a good kind of busy. So it's, trying to be, focused on conquering certain goals and meeting certain objectives. And then, once that's done, then can like relax a little bit, get off the throttle, and take a little bit of time to rest and have some fun. But yeah, it's been good. But I've definitely been wanting to come and make a lot of these events, but with the time zone situation, sometimes it's been either I'm dead asleep or on an airplane somewhere. So
what kept you up to 5:30 in the morning in California today?
Well, when you're out and about and you have a very fun date with a singer, and then you wind up having another fellow 1%er hit you up at about 3 a.m. saying, "Hey, are you up? I'm in the area. You want to shoot the shit?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So
Nice.
Yeah, wound up hanging out at the house and talking about a couple other things. And so I was like, oh yeah, well, I was planning to be up for the stream anyway. So it's again, it's that community. So
cool, man. It's good to see you. Jake, you had a list of some things you wanted to dive through, right?
Yeah, I was bringing a few things to the table. One thing I want to talk about on the supplements note. Did you hear apparently Canada's going to be banning some natural supplements or something?
Which ones?
I haven't looked into it too much, but apparently there's a bill that they're working on passing to ban supplements. I just saw an article headline about it.
Canada banning natural supplements, natural health products in Canada. What we know, Canada's starting to track adverse effects of it. Yeah, okay, here we go. Boost regulation on natural health. Let's see what they got here. I did not see this yet. Oh no, this is from March 30th, man. Let me see if there's a more recent article.
I thought there were some more recent ones coming out, causing a bit of a stir. But
senators in Canada are deliberating new regulation, closely monitored. So let's see what they got on the hit list here. Let's see what's so bad they got to ban. Disease, organ function, modifying. They haven't really said anything yet. 88% natural reviewed. Bill C-47. Oh, you know what this is, dude? This is the standard. We're introducing a bill in Parliament to protect you Canadians from bad shit. but they don't list what's in it. All they do is they say unproven, unauthorized health claims, wrong dosages, incomplete list of ingredients, unreadable information on the product label. So this is what Canada does typically, guys. So I did some lobbying on this bill back in 2010 to 2012, which again, broadly worded to protect consumers from nefarious blah, 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 blah. And then what it turned out to be was a bill to protect the profit margins of credit card companies and banks. They passed it anyway. And they basically shut down most of the industry. This is going to be a control mechanism. I can assure you of this. This is the standard play that they always use. I wouldn't be surprised if they ban basic shit like vitamin D3 or something like that. And they'll probably have some sort of pharmaceutical that's going to be introduced that they're going to replace, that somebody in Parliament has some fucking investments in. Anyway, we'll see how it unfolds, but that's something that you can keep an eye on.
Yeah, they'll never ban soy. Never.
No, they won't ban soy. They won't take the estrogen out of the tap water that's in there that they know about.
They won't ban Bill Gates's Frankenstein crops.
Or
his Frankenstein
mosquitoes. Yeah. What's this about these mosquitoes now in Florida and Texas that are carrying malaria? Something they haven't seen in like forever there.
Well, so the connection they're making is that there's been a lot of news about the 2 billion mosquitoes that Gates's foundation released that were genetically modified.
That's okay.
Presumably, right? The idea is that they genetically modified them so that they can't reproduce. They'll mate with live, non-edited mosquitoes, and then those mosquitoes won't be able to reproduce. That's the theory, right? But so all of that's happening and has been for the last few months. And now in the last 6 months was the time frame, malaria cases that have never been caught in the States are now being recorded. So there's a little bit of a dotted line that they're trying to make, whether it's connected or not, who knows? But either way, it's still a distraction. Who cares about malaria? Let's talk about 2 billion mosquitoes. They playing God.
Golly gee, Wally, that's a coinky dink.
It's the same.
Yeah, they're playing God again, and it's backfiring.
Yeah,
it's the same playbook that they're using for crypto as well, where they went for the independent exchanges and DEXs and just about everything. And then they come with the safe CBDC. Hey, you can have this digital dollar in your wallet, and it's going to be just as good, and it's approved, and you can use it everywhere, and they can stop you from spending those funds if you don't have a good enough credit score or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting because they definitely know that the right space, the infrastructure for crypto, they know it's coming, right? So they're just trying to slow it down to get the infrastructure in space. So CBDCs are going to be interesting because it's going to be more about the tracking side, which is as far as like being able to stop purchases. Like your bank can already do that right now. If your bank suddenly decides, you know what, we just don't like you for whatever reason, you have a low credit score, whatever, they can automatically freeze all your assets and all your accounts. So like CBDCs, everything that everybody's worried about with CBDCs, your banks can actually do all that stuff like right now. So
but isn't the problem is that control will get transferred to a federal agency, and obviously it's bad for the banks to be able to do it. It's even worse for a politician.
No, but there's a few differences here that need to be noted. One is that even though right now your bank can tell you, hey, you're not allowed to use this debit card to buy crypto, right? They exclude a certain type of merchant. But in the future, they can do something like, hey, you've bought this much amount of meat this week. You're no longer able to use CBDC to buy meat because you've met your goal.
Yeah, it's not in the future. Check out Nigel Farage's Twitter feed. Whether you agree with Brexit or not, check out his Twitter feed and check out the vicar. There was a vicar in England had his bank account closed because the vicar believes this is something controversial now, Rich. You might want to beep this. The vicar believes that only men have penises and only women can give birth. Okay, and he took part in a protest to advocate that radical viewpoint. and he just got a notice that his bank accounts were shut down in Yorkshire. So
Yeah.
it's happening already. This digital whatever thing you guys call it, I'm not up to speed on all your crypto tech, but whatever it is just going to make them. It's going to make it easier for them to be more authoritarian.
Exactly.
It's
going to give more control.
CBDCs get like all of the press, but in reality, like what's going to be the real mechanism, and everyone's going to flood to it, and everyone's going to accept it. It's going to be FedPay. Like everybody, like
what's
look up.
FedPay?
So FedPay is basically the
FedPay, B-A-Y?
FedPay.
Pay, okay.
Yeah,
Pay.
FedPay. So it's basically the Federal Reserve is now going to be offering processing services. So you know very well, right? Credit card processing service and those fees. Basically, FedPay is going to be the Federal Reserve being able to offer those exact same services for literal cents, like probably about like 2 cents. So if they're going to undercut everybody else, like Visa, like every other processing pay,
So
which
they're
people are
trying
going
to take on PayPal and Visa and the blockchain. Is that what they're trying to do?
Not necessarily the blockchain, but they're definitely taking on like Visa, PayPal, like anybody that's a processor.
Is it going to be built on the blockchain? Is that what they're talking about?
Yep.
Yes, it will be built on the blockchain. So it will leverage that technology. And so, again, pairing it up with a CBDC, right, which is, again, just it's going to replace the dollar because, 10% of the cash in the United States already, or 10% of the currency in the US right now is cash. So no one's using cash. Everybody's already using debit cards. We're already there. This is the final evolution of it. But FedPay is going to be the real game changer because now what you have is the Federal Reserve being able to authorize all transactions. And that's what people are going to flood to because it's going to be a far cheaper alternative. So it's going to be a really interesting new market that we're in.
Wingman, I got a question for you regarding fashion because you do a lot of shoots and stuff.
Yes.
And I was in Manhattan yesterday, me and my girl. And normally you go to a city like New York, you walk around every couple of blocks, you'll like see jaw-dropping, well-dressed women and stuff. And there's these jeans that all these young girls are wearing. I don't know what they are, but they are the most hideous things ever. And, after about an hour walking around, I turned to my girl and I said, I haven't seen any pretty women yet. And it just seems to be like a Western downslide into this, androgynous, horrible clothing and looking frumpy and dumpy and not dressing up anymore.
Well, it's all like fashion cycles, right? So like androgyny was actually like a pretty huge fashion statement in like the mid 80s. And then it kind of came back for a little bit like towards the late 90s, early 2000s a bit. So you kind of see this thing like wave and sort of cycle up. And, then like the high-waisted jeans came back and then skinny jeans. So yeah, when it comes to fashion, it's always going to be interesting in cycle. And New York specifically is going to be a city where you're going to see a lot of that more reflected because they tend to be more of the fashion leading or fashion conscious city in the West. So everything that's experimental or, is cutting edge or what people call cutting edge. But if you look back maybe 20, 30 years, you'll see, okay, we've done that before. You'll see a lot of that stuff.
Interesting. Sorry, I was still hung up on thinking about this FedPay thing. I did a post the other day on Twitter. I'll just read it out. It says Western culture is a scam for men. This got 21,000 likes on it. You get up early, you pay for a house, you hardly live in it. You don't own the land it sits on. You pay a mortgage to a bank that lent you pretend money made out of thin air. You pay interest on they didn't even have on deposit in a vault. You drive a car that is primarily used to get to and from work, usually on congested and broken roads. Your tax money never seems to fix. You pay 30 to 50% in income tax to the government for a job, a job designed to keep you just over broke, while the government spends your money on programs you generally don't agree with. To buy stuff with sales tax with money you've already paid income taxes on, to impress people we don't even like with things we generally don't even care about. And if you do well with your investments with income you've already been taxed on, you pay more tax on tax in the form of capital gains tax to the government on money you took the risk on investing. All this usually to impress a woman enough to commit to you that has already shared her body with dozens of other men, that brings baggage to the table, that if you live with or marry can take half your shit, your kids, if she changes her mind about you later on down the road. This is kind of a sad reality that nobody argued with. And I figured that I just tabled this. What did you guys think of that?
Pre-COVID, I would have said it was conspiracy. Now I'm like, it's reality.
And like, I didn't even talk about everything. That was like, you know, I tried to keep it condensed. There's a lot more you could insert in there that you know, amplifies the BS, but people just continue going on with their day. They get up, they put gas in their car, they drive, they go to the grocery store, they pay their taxes on income they've already paid taxes on. It's, you know, it's surprising that they got to this point, isn't it?
I mean, it's like you want to say yes when you look at it from that, like, you know, 30,000 foot view, but then like when you get down like more ground floor, it's kind of weird where it's like, if people didn't do that, how would society look? Would we still have one? Would it function? Right? It's really interesting when you ask that question.
And the other thing too is that, yeah, it sucks, but I mean, like, at least I'm not working in a coal mine. I have all my fingers. Like those pyramids were built by somebody, and they probably weren't paid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I mean, it's kind of always sucked. For people, for men especially, I think only in the last maybe 200 years did not just like people in general got the right to even vote or have some semblance of control over their lives. Before, it was only a few elite that ruled everybody.
Yeah, it's almost like the shackles that we've had have been made invisible. So, you know, follow me through on this. Like, you know, Big Black was just talking about the guys that built the pyramid, and were probably not paid to build them, by the way. They likely saw the shackles on their ankles, you know, while they were doing the work. You know, slaves, you know, a couple hundred years ago saw the shackles on their ankles. The you know, the human traded gladiators in, you know, the Roman days that were also slaves, also, you know, saw the binds that like sort of held them in place. Today they've almost made them invisible. It's like taxation and the systems that are put in place aligned with controlling that. You don't see them, but they exist.
Well, the other hard part too is
we're like tax cattle.
Yeah,
like we're basically livestock making tax payments and keeping the whole government thing going.
They just keep
we say
till you snap.
We say, times have never been better. We've never been safer, but we're also trading. Longer. Yeah, we're trading our freedoms and everything for that as well. Though we have, like, we're living in more and more narrow cages here as far as the things that we can and can't do with our lives as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think,
there's no escaping us, right?
Right. There's no escaping it, but it's also interesting. It's, you know, I think for, you know, the fundamental question that we have, right, is always, do we want a society that has high security and, like, you know, lower freedom, or do we want more freedoms with less security, right? Mm-hmm. And I think people are more and more willing to give up a lot of their freedom for at least some, even if it's imagined, right, some semblance of actual security, right? Because I mean, that's what, you know, happened in 2020, where, hey, we've got this unprecedented global event, and everyone went along with, hey, we want to feel secure. So absolutely, we will give up all of our,
even if it saves one life,
we'll give up our freedom for that feeling of security. And so that right there just shows you, like, how willing people are to just go down the pathway. Mm-hmm. I think it's, you know, true freedom is kind of terrifying, and it takes a lot of, like, responsibility and accountability, which is extremely, extremely difficult.
There's always been elites sort of pulling the strings, haven't there, you know, throughout history, whether it was kings or emperors or whoever it happened to be in the past 1,000 years ago. There's always been elites. It's just, they sort of give you the illusion of freedom today and, you know, maneuverability and that sort of stuff. But I mean, like, the whole taxation point is just the funniest part of it, because money has no real inherent value. It only has value because people agree that it has value. Like, if you hold up a $20 greenback, everybody that looks at it will say, yeah, that's worth $20. And you give that to a fucking toucan Sam or a monkey or a gorilla, they'll look at it and they'll wipe their ass with it. It has absolutely no value because they all agree they don't know what it is and it has no value. So the only reason why it exists is because we all agree that there's value in it, and they keep printing it. It's, you know, there's an unlimited supply. And again, you know, it always brings me back to the question, if they can print an unlimited supply of this stuff, then why do they tax us with it?
There's a, you know, the power to tax. Yeah.
Think about that, man.
It is.
Is that fucked up or what?
Right.
You know, the power to tax is the power to control. But there was a tweet that went viral as well this week, Rich. I'll try and dig it up. But
well, 50, when they taxed you like 1,000 years ago when you lived on the king's land, you actually handed him something of some value that couldn't be reproduced out of thin air like paper money, right?
Yeah. So, and it's easier to increase taxes when people can't actually see some physical value.
And you got something in return, like you had your safety. You know, there was an army that would protect you from invading forces.
But one of the reasons why they're so hell-bent on attacking and controlling, let's say, the United States and North America is the entrepreneurial spirit over here. And there was a viral tweet from a German lady this week, and it was essentially, she said, when you're in Europe, and I can attest to this, and she said in Germany, when you're born rich, you stay rich, and when you're middle class, you can work and you can get a couple of nice things. But she said, damn, I've come here, I've done this, I've worked my butt off. And she says, now I own a company. And she was just on about how hard that would have been to do back in Europe. And a testament to that, as I said, I was in New York the other day, and about 18 years ago, I was giving this electrician work when I was with a large general contractor. I was like giving him a $50,000 contract. I spoke to him yesterday. He's got 500 employees now. That's how big he's become in almost 2 decades. It blows my mind.
Yeah. Like Eastern Europe is the remaining place where you can still create a lot of wealth within Europe, right? The way that the laws, the tax structure, the society is organized in Western Europe makes it very hard to go up the ladder, much harder than even in the US or Canada. Yeah. And they have these stupid rules, like in France, if you have over a certain number of employees, you have to have what's it called, a syndicate, not union, and the union has to have a representative of on the members of the board, and it's like unbelievable. So that makes it very hard for companies to grow. It makes it very hard for people to create value. Actually, I was just looking at the stock market. Do you know that the entire DAX, the top 40 German companies together added, have a smaller market cap than Apple?
Will not be surprised.
That's insane.
And I can attest. I can attest to what Dragos just said. My buddy does audio visual, and he does it on yachts, high net worth individual yachts, and they go out to sea, obviously, and you know the sea environment degrades stuff pretty quickly. So he's got to repair the sound systems and the audio visual systems on deck, and he does this for an Irish musician who happens to have his yacht in the south of France, and it pays this guy to bring his yacht out of French waters, drop anchor, and fly my buddy in from New York, because the guy that does all the repairs in France, he can't hire kids for the summer, because if he hires someone for the summer, he's got to give him a job for life under French law. And the guy's just, look, I need some teenagers for the summer to help me rewire stuff. He can't do it. So the guy, pulls his yacht out of French territorial waters, drops an anchor, and my buddy comes in, repairs the thing, and back in he goes. And the rest of the guys, they're in Monte Carlo or wherever the heck they are Saint-Tropez, are waiting for 6 months for the local AV guy to get to their yacht.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a cultural, like the cultural attitudes, right? Because my friends in Italy, right, every time we hang out and talk, and they're always like, yeah, you Americans are really interesting because you guys are very optimistic, but you always can reinvent yourselves. It's like we have until we're basically 27, 28. And if we don't have a solid career locked in, we're essentially written off as social outcasts and failures. And so it's the cultural differences are also really interestingly different between more of the Western European side and the United States.
Yeah. And this is why Eastern Europe absolutely rocks. Like you get a lot of value being created now. Poland has a lot of growth. Romania has had a lot of growth. A great GDP increase, which means a lot of millionaires being minted. I mean, it's still small scale compared to the US, right? I think California has
Yeah, if we have the 5th biggest economy, which I still don't understand how we have the 5th biggest economy in the entire world. If we were our own economy, like that to me is like, and seeing how like mismanaged a lot of stuff has been in California, I'm just like how we've lucked our way into it. That still just makes me wonder, like how is that even possible? Like, but again,
it must be all the tech though.
Well, tech is definitely a huge part of it, but we also have a huge amount of agriculture out here. Like 80% of the world's almonds are made in California. We also have a lot of aircraft industry. We have a lot of different industries here. Obviously, you know, Hollywood, entertainment, music, all that type of stuff. We've got a lot of that as well, and then you know, definitely some military manufacturing as well. But yeah, California is a really, 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 I guess, as an economic power, we've got a pretty massive economy. And, you know, you rope that in with the U.S., we just have a really good geography, right? Like this was literally one of the most perfect places on the planet you could have like carved out to make yourself like a geopolitical superpower, because you have really, really great geography. It's also really great against like, you know, any type of invasion or anything like that. It's like to try and do a physical land grab. And then, yeah, we have a great economy, and we have a very stable government, right? So those are kind of like the big things that you need to really become a, you know, true superpower that can, you know, have an empire.
Another thing, you know, we talk about Eastern Europe versus, you know, the US. And I noticed this from traveling back and forth a lot. In Europe, only rich people can drive nice cars. Okay. Over here, you buy a car, it's between you, the person you buy it off, and the gas pump. Back in Europe, you know, the car you have, Renegade, that thing, my buddy had one of those. I think it's an M3. If you had that in Ireland, you'd have to pay $3,500 a year in taxation on it just to keep it, because the engine size is considered gigantic. So yeah, also let's just have a sticker on it, and then, you know, the gas prices. So literally, any of the cars I've owned in the last, you know, my current car would only be driven by executive rich person in Ireland.
Also, the United States is also the cheapest place in the world to buy a car, right? So, like, you could buy a car here, like a regular, right, Ford, right? You could pay that for $20,000 to try and buy it in the Philippines. It's going to be $60,000. Like, we have the cheapest place to buy cars and all sorts of goods. That's why people love doing a lot of shopping out here when they come on their holidays, because most goods and services are actually substantially cheaper here than they are elsewhere, which is also another really interesting thing.
Speaking of cars, I traded in the McLaren for a Porsche.
All right. How's the transition?
I have a Beetle now, a very fast Beetle. It's a Turbo S. I'm getting used to it. I decided that the McLaren needed to go. It was getting close to 40,000 kilometers, and what I was using it for was mostly rallies, putting on loads and loads of miles. I think I bought it with 15,000 K. I put close to, I got close to 40,000 on it. Mechanically, it was sound, but they just tank in value as you put more and more miles on them. And the other thing too is, by day 3 or 4 on a long drive, like you don't want to drive it because your back and your ass hurt. You have to get out of it, and you're sore and shit. So the Porsche should be a better car for longer rides. And I'm just getting used to it, man. It's a pretty wild little thing. I didn't really know where it sort of fit in the spectrum. They call it like the everyday supercar. I wouldn't call it a supercar. It seems like it's a nicer Audi. Nicer, faster Audi.
Yeah, it's quick. Like, no lie. I mean, the first time I ever took out a Turbo S, I almost redefined what I knew about physics. That car is like, it's scarily quick, but it's also very comfortable.
Yeah.
So especially, being German, and the Germans tend to be bigger and taller. So it's like, oh, okay, good. A big, tall guy.
I get lots of headroom in it. Yeah. I mean, not much more than the McLaren. Like the 720's got actually loads of headroom, for that type of car. I did notice that the Porsche rides a lot rougher than the McLaren, which is strange because the hydraulics, suspension system that's in the 720 and the Super Series, you kind of take it for granted after you get used to it. It's a very, very, very good system, and they apparently improved it even in the 750. But it eats up bumps in comfort mode like no other supercar I've ever been in. And the Turbo S, it's a rougher riding car on bumpy roads, even in the normal setting. But I'll have a little bit more of analysis once I come back from the July rally that I'm going on in a few weeks.
Okay, yeah, it's probably like slightly heavier, but then with the all-wheel drive, it might be able to
500 pounds heavier. 500 pounds heavier than the
Okay.
McLaren. It's a heavier
Yeah.
car for sure.
But with the all-wheel drive, then it can probably make up a bit of
It
that
shoots
ground.
off the line, and it's also got four-wheel steering. One of the things I noticed is you don't need
Okay.
to make 3-point turns to
Yeah.
make a U-turn anymore, or not a U-turn, but like on a 2-lane road, you just crank the wheel and you go down the other lane with the 4-wheel steering.
Yeah, four-wheel steering is a little bit of a game changer.
It's wild because it really adds to the handling of the car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have that on my BMW as well, and
Four-wheel
since
steering,
it's long,
yeah.
even though it's a convertible, it helps a lot.
Did you sell it or?
Well, no, I took it to a dealer, and I got a few offers, but
Yeah.
I'm letting some offers pile up and see if I can get a better offer than what I've got. I basically drove this car for 60,000 kilometers in 2 years, and it's probably going to cost me under 15,000 euro, like the depreciation price.
Yeah. Oh, and I also have an RS5 that I just tuned, which I'm probably not even going to drive that much. It's got a stage 2 tune. So the plan was, because the 720 is sometimes in the shop for like mechanical, well, not mechanical, but like sensors and shit like that. I figure it's probably a good idea to have a backup car in case I need to go on a rally and the car's in the shop or need something and it's on back order. So I'll have that. So
That's
I
why
picked up
you
an
have
RS5.
That's why I have 2 McLarens, right?
Yeah, maybe I should have just bought 2. But
well,
yeah, so I got the RS5 and I got some hardware for it, downpipes, intercooler, intake, and then I software tuned it, and it makes 585 horsepower and 640 pound-feet of torque now.
Wow. Okay.
It's rapid, and I'm probably not going to drive it that much, so I think I'm probably going to sell it. But it sounds awesome. Like when you're in the car and you accelerate, like even at a smooth, like low sound, it makes really, really wild sounds in a subtle way. So I'll probably make a couple of videos in the car, just see how it sounds. It does sound pretty wild.
It's amazing, like how like insane cars really can be if you just like tweak a couple of settings, especially with the ECU. Because like again, modern engines are like they can throw out a lot of power.
Dude, the RS5 is 444 from the factory. It's a 2.9 V6 co-developed with Porsche. It goes in most Audis and some Porsches, but you tune it like to get it from 444 to 585 with just a couple of bolt-on pieces, and it's reliable too. Like I told the guy, look, I want to drive this on rallies. I need to make sure it runs on pump gas that's available, and I want to make sure it doesn't break. He goes, no problem. You know, I'll set the timing and the boost and everything right, so you get a lot of life out of it. And dude, it moves, it boogies.
He's putting like the methanol away. Like, yeah, no,
there's no meth.
I'll make it useful.
No, there's no meth injection in it, but yeah, maybe one day. I don't know. I'll get into a batshit crazy build.
Yeah, those could be fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of machines, Jake has a kick-ass bike, as we all found out a couple of weeks ago.
Dude, nice bike. Yeah, I had to steal it and take it out for a ride and sort of reminisce on my back days. And you know what I like that's kind of similar to Jake's Harley is the what's it called? The Harley Night Rod or Black Rod or something like that.
V-Rod.
You know what I'm talking about?
V-Rod. The V-Rod.
The V-Rod.
Yeah, but it's like a V-Rod Night Rod or something like that. It's like an all blacked out bike. It looks sick.
Yeah, the night versions of the Harleys look really good. Have you been looking at buying one?
I did, and I found a couple that I liked, and that might be the next thing that I pick up is a nice muscle bike like that because it suits my character and style now.
And your size.
And my size, yeah.
Yeah, the forward controls of my bike were huge, having the room for the legs in there.
Yeah. I have an Indian FTR.
Okay.
Like a kind of cafe racer.
Indian FTR. Let me look that up. And like, there's so many bike brands out there. I can never keep track of what's what, man. Back in my day when I was a youngster, we used to do crotch rockets only, right? What's it called? An Indian FTR?
Yeah.
I put 900 on my bike in the last 2 weeks before all the rain and all the Canada smoke. It was just really riding an awful lot.
Oh, that looks wild. Indian FTR. Yeah, that looks pretty sick.
Man. But it's small. I mean,
is it a small bike?
Yeah, it's like it looks like a very big bike, but in actual practice, it's kind of small, which for me is good because I'm not that tall. I'm medium height.
What's the engine size on it?
I think 1,300 cc's.
Oh, okay, so it's got some torque.
Yeah, it's a torque monster. It's so comfortable to ride because you can just put it in third and forget about it.
Third?
Yeah.
Just third gear? You wouldn't go to sixth?
I mean, you do get to sixth, but not in the city.
Yeah. It's got 120 horsepower, which isn't too bad.
Yeah.
That's enough to boogie around.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are responsible. I'm just instinctively attracted to like the most insane, crazy bikes that they always make. So it's like that's why I have to stay away. Because friends were like looking up, it's like coming across bikes. It's like, oh, this Ninja H2R, that looks awesome. Like
300 and something horsepower.
Yeah, and it turns out it does 250 miles an hour, like out of the factory.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, well,
there's a video somewhere in the internet of one of those H2Rs on, I think, the San Francisco Bridge reaching its top speed from one end to the other.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's a bike that literally, it's like $50,000, but it can drive as fast as a Bugatti. It's like, and me, I'm just like, oh, it looks like a Decepticon. So yeah, I want that.
Renegade, you're only attracted to bikes if they have huge red flags.
Yeah,
basically, yes, pretty much. So I can blow past them.
Yeah, they can murder you very quickly.
It's almost like vehicles. The more red flags they have, the better they are. It's like they're the polar opposite of ladies.
Exactly. It's the Lamborghini Aventador. Everything that makes that car terrible makes it amazing.
What do you think of the new Lambo that's replaced it, the Revuelto or whatever it's called?
Revuelto.
Yeah, Revuelto.
Yes, I'm very excited to drive
Spaghetti and a meatballs. So what's the matter for you, huh?
I'm definitely going to be excited to drive it. I think the front, I'm kind of like, but I could definitely see like with a facelift, it'll probably like look like properly mean. I'll wait to see it like in person before making that final judgment. But I mean, 1,000 horsepower Lamborghini with a V12 in the back that's naturally aspirated. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to really argue with that. So
yeah, I'll put it up on the screen because there's probably some car guys watching going, what is this Lamborghini that this wingman is talking about? This is what
it's
it is.
It's a V12?
Right, yeah, it's a V12 hybrid.
V12 hybrid.
Three engines in that, 3 electric motors, 2 in the front, 1 in the transmission. It should boogie quite well.
Because their first quote unquote hybrid was the Cyan that had the 800 horsepower V12, but it has a supercapacitor in it. So that only generated about 30 horsepower.
And now you will appreciate this being 6'6" Renegade, but apparently they increased the roof line.
Yes.
So it's got more headroom for big guys.
Yeah.
What's the weight like? What's the weight like in a hybrid Lamborghini? Would that be more than usual?
It'll probably be a little bit heavier, but they're getting really good with carbon technology and lighter weight batteries, lithium-ion batteries and stuff like that. Plus with these hybrid like supercars, they don't need massive batteries like Tesla that weigh a ton. They just need 11 kilowatt hour size battery so that because it charges and recharges very quickly. Like you'll just discharge when you floor it, and then when you get on the brakes, and it recharges, for the next corner, and then it discharges again when you come out of the corner.
Yeah, they generate so much torque now that the weight difference with the way the cars are set up pretty much negates, or the weight setup pretty much negates the additional weight. So it'll move for sure. But yeah,
curious what the price will be for this. I think it's going to be expensive, like 600K or something.
It's 600,000, which I was very happy that it's only 600,000 because the rumors were before it came out that they were going to bump the price up to 900,000 on the base. So it's like, all right, at 6, that's acceptable because it's basically like the Aventador came out roughly 500K, and so with inflation, 600. So it's in that same price bracket it's always been. But yeah, to get anything close to the specification on a car, you have to spend $1 million plus.
Speaking about hybrids, I drove a McLaren Artura last weekend. What
do you think?
It's actually not bad, man. I was a little bit surprised with how good it seemed to be. We were at this event, the Sick Kids event. So they had all these kids that, came up and, we were driving around in supercars, and they gave me a McLaren Artura. Actually, they wanted to give me a Lamborghini Huracan Evo, and I'm like, I'm not driving that thing. There's no headroom. Fuck you guys. So I asked them for the keys for the McLaren. so I got in the Artura and I drove this thing, and I was pretty surprised, man. It's for like a 3-liter V6, it's pretty quick with the hybrid setup. It's not as fast as a 720. I actually raced them with my 720 a couple of months ago when I still had it, and the 720 is way faster than the Artura, but it feels rapid.
Yeah, almost nothing's faster than 720. So it's that's
Wingman, have you ever driven a DB9? Because as I said to Rich the other day, I've become kind of obsessed with them, and it's not something an Irishman wants to go bragging about, the Aston Martins. But I just love the damn things. The more research I've done into them, the more.
Year?
Yeah.
07. I think they figured out all the kinks by 07. But and 07 onwards.
07 to 2012.
Yeah.
Because I've heavily looked into actually picking up like a 2011, 2012 DBS. Just because
DBS is what you want.
That's
the one with the 550.
510, I believe. It's the James Bond one.
Yeah, and it just it looks perfect. Like,
dude, I'm a poor Irish immigrant. Any DB9 will do me. Okay.
Actually, if you get the DBS in an automatic, it's not a single clutch auto, it's a torque converted auto, so it's actually pretty good setup, and they're very reliable. The DBS is a sick car.
Or you be a man and just get a manual.
Well, I don't.
The manuals are like
$100
grand more.
Manuals. My left knee is goosed. But no, I just said to my son, I was like, you guys are out the door in 2 years to college. I said, this is what I'm getting when you're gone. He's like, no, you have to get it now. I'm like, no, you're gone. I'm getting this. And you can squeeze into the back seat whenever I pick you up.
Yeah, no, you think that, but no. Those back seats are literally just like luggage containers. Like,
I think you have to actually hate your children if you want to put them in the back seat of like a DBS or even like a 911. The back seats on 911 are stupid small.
Yeah.
But, in a few years, we won't be able to buy new V8s or V12s. And again, going back to Europe and what I said, like, I wouldn't, if you could afford to purchase a DB9 back in Europe, I wouldn't have been able to afford to run the damn thing. But, I could, I might get one in a couple of years, and it's going to run 12 miles per gallon, but that's between me and the gas pump.
We'll see, because if you notice, right, where they talk about they're going to phase out internal combustion engines, right, there's always that little asterisk that says like wherever possible, but also like market trends, like with Porsche, right, when they went with from the Cayman and the Boxster, they went to the 4-cylinder and everyone revolted, so they brought the 6 back. That's kind of happening now, where a lot of the smaller engine cars, people are they're getting really bad reviews, and a lot of people are just not taking to them. So the market may actually like swing back for, hey, give us like, something bigger with some grunt.
Check this. So
like what I can tell you about bigger cars with small engines. Right now, I'm driving a BMW 7 Series, a 740E. So it's a hybrid made in 2018, I think. It's got a 2-liter engine that I tuned. It does about 320 horsepower, plus the electric engine. I think it's about 400 horsepower altogether when you add them up. And this is not a lazy car. Like, it's not that sporty, but I mean, I was flogging it on the highway and it was like, dude, this is not bad.
Now, if you want to go
7 Series 4-banger with a hybrid,
I heard a great phrase from my English buddy during the week about doing that to your car. He calls it caning it. When you're just gunning it on the highway. He's from London, and I was like, well, what did you say you're doing to your car? He says caning it, like whipping it with a cane on the highway.
Well, if you want to go the exact opposite of that, you should get a Dodge Viper, right, with the 8-liter V10. It's the scariest car you could drive.
Yes, my buddy bought one. He has one in his garage, and he told me about the first time he got it. And he said he bought the car, he brought it home, and an hour later, the insurance company called him and said, listen, we're insuring you, we got you insured, but we just want to tell you this is the most wrecked car within the first 6 months statistically. People are wrecking. The Viper. Yeah. The lady called him and said, we just want to tell you. And he was at a T-junction near my house. I know the exact T-junction. And the road was wet. And he was making a right turn to get it, so he gunned it to get up speed to get into the traffic. And he ended up doing a left turn. He made a 180 and he went left.
It's the car that every time you push the gas pedal, it's a Russian roulette of, do you go straight or do you go into a tree? Because that is the scariest car I've ever driven.
I will take your Viper, and I will show you a home-built Cobra 427 that will scare you even further.
I got scared of one of those recently, about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So, where does Gary live? 50?
Or buddy down in Kentucky.
Yeah, he's in Lexington, I think, or was it Lexington?
Yeah.
He's he's got a 427 Cobra, and he met me up at the Cars and Coffee last summer when I was on the rally, and he goes, "Yeah, we got to take the car for a rip." I've driven a Viper. This 427 home built Cobra is scary as shit, dude. It weighs no more than a feather. It's got a big block V8 in it. It just rips.
Well, so yeah, my friend was out here visiting me, and he wound up picking one up just to take off like a week. And of course, the first thing, like as soon as we get back, like gets a snake bite, right? Burns his ankle on the side pipe getting out, and he's like, he's like, I love this car. It's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't make any sense, but it's like that car is the only car that I've seen that will get like equal amount of attention to like a Lamborghini. Like everyone comes up and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, that's a great looking car. Can you tell us more about it?"
Tell me this is not sick. Like just check out this night rod thing here, man. I mean, that's a bit of a custom build. I think it's got a fatter tire and lower bars, but these things are just disgusting. Like, look at this. It just looks mean.
Yeah, blacked out.
Look at this one here. I think it's a thumbnail for a video.
That's actually one. That's actually one black rod that you're not gay for liking.
Dude's been quiet the whole time. He drops the mic. Yo.
One of my friends had a V rod. He said it was fast as hell.
Are they fairly heavy? Like, are they heavier than your bike, you think?
Yeah, it's got the liquid cooling, so it would have a bit of extra weight on there, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but they're not made lightweight by any means. Like, they're not made with any kind of lightweight components like aluminum or magnesium or titanium or anything. Hey, they're just big metal.
Rich,
Harleys are made to be light.
Yeah.
One of the guys in the group owns one. Can put you in touch with him if you want to ask him a few questions.
Yeah. DM me so I can get in touch because I'm super curious, man. I like the looks of them. They just look badass. I'm at that stage, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, what else we got going on? You know, what else is on the table today? What's been crack-a-lacking this week?
Well, guys,
how about the Musk and Zuckerberg fight?
Oh, yeah.
Going to be in the Coliseum, apparently. They're in talks to do it there.
I heard the Roman Coliseum might be the venue for that. That would be interesting.
That's very Elon Musk-ish, which is, I mean, like, it's, you got to admit, it's like, all right, I'll bite, right? Like, I would tune into that just out of sheer curiosity.
So what were we talking about before? Breads and circuses. That's perfect, right, for the Roman Coliseum, because that's all it is. It's just a spectacle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I'm above it.
I don't see Musk winning that one though. I mean, as much as I don't like the Zuck, he certainly looks like he knows what he's doing when you watch him do BJJ. Musk, on the other hand, he's completely out of shape. I mean, the stuff that I've seen with him on yachts, like he's in rough shape. He needs more than a few months worth of training, actually.
I know he's fathered 10 kids, so he could probably pull something out, man. Like,
but he's a big dude. Yeah. He's a lot bigger than Zuck. I think he's like 6'1".
Yeah,
he's a taller dude.
Anyway, skills in BJJ don't always translate into MMA type competence.
Yeah. Well, it depends if it's an MMA fight or if it's just BJJ.
Yeah, what type of cage?
Yeah, and the other thing too is that these guys aren't known to kill each other or anything like that either. I think it's more of a, if it does happen, which I'm a little bit skeptical, but I think it'd be more of a charity thing. It's just two rich billionaires.
Well, I mean, you know, when the decision comes up, will the independent fact checkers decide like who counted all the?
Yeah, there's this trend for like celebrity bouts now, isn't there?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're great money makers, right? I mean, again, like Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, they prove that the hype fight is like the ultimate moneymaker. When McGregor, the loser, was making $100 million minimum, you're like, okay, yeah, who's really losing here? Like,
crypto's about to pop.
Pop?
Yeah, go over a certain threshold where people start getting interested again.
Oh, you think it's going to pop up, not pop down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although alt might bleed for a month or two more.
Yeah. Well, then 2024 will be really interesting too, because then again, you got Bitcoin's halving coming up in that time frame, as well as again like CBDCs and FedPay probably going into play. So that's going to again push more folks into all right. We got to go with either one side or the other.
Now. Yeah, it's safe now, and you're going to get the ETFs, which means that
the ETFs. Yep, 100%.
Didn't BlackRock make an announcement for some sort of fund or something?
No, BlackRock made an announcement for an ETF. And the SEC just replied telling them that they need to specify who is the exchange that they're going to use for custody. There's only one that they can use, which is Coinbase.
Yeah.
And the market went absolutely bonkers. The ETF news came out, Bitcoin goes up. The news about the ETF being not rejected, it was like they told
put on hold. Yeah.
No, it's not put on hold. Yeah, like when you try to create a financial type of product, you send the documentation or letter of intent to the SEC, and you tell them like we want to do this, and they tell you you need to fix this, and this. I mean, that's the process. It doesn't get approved by like from the first step, right? It takes about a year to go through all of the
and XRP's case should resolve hopefully in like the next like 4 months. So that will be very, very interesting for the space.
What's the deal with Celsius? Are there any updates on that? Are we ever going to see that crypto back?
No, it's dead.
I might as well write off that 20 grand I had on there.
Goodbye. It's not only dead, they're selling the altcoins that they had in not custody, in earn accounts for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Like they're doing a bit of reshuffling, and hopefully like what they want to do is that they want to ride the price increase so that they can sell the Bitcoin and Ethereum and reimburse everybody. I mean, I don't know.
They want to reimburse in fiat then. They're not going to reimburse in crypto that's already there.
I'm not sure. Like the plan is complicated. There's a lot of news. I
just want them to hand over the shit I put on their fucking exchange.
Yeah. I didn't tell you guys.
It's like, Miguel, I love you, but we all got bemoosed on that one.
I don't love that guy. He's a fucking
I'm actually got all my money out.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. I know somebody that has €1 million worth of Ethereum locked in it.
$1 million worth of Ether locked on it.
Frustrating.
I mean, I never had the appetite to put anything more than like 10 or 20 grand on any centralized exchange for a prolonged period of time, and even that clearly burned me in the ass.
Yeah.
Guys, actually, did I tell you that I'm working on a security token?
Explain.
This is news.
Yeah. In Romania, we have a financial supervision authority. It kind of translates poorly into Romanian because for reasons, I don't know. And they came up with the idea, since I'm also working on an exchange, like, hey, how about we do the first security token offering in Europe for this type of crypto? And we had our first meeting with the financial supervision authority in Romania, and they were positive to it. Like, what we're doing is that we're transforming the profit that solar panels fitted into a solar power plant will produce into a security token. So we're not tokenizing the ownership, we're only tokenizing the profit.
Tokenizing the profit of solar energy?
Yeah.
But there's generally no profit in solar energy because they're cost negative, man. The cost to set them up and run them. They're not profitable until like 30 years down the road. I'm a little bit confused.
They'll tell you it's 15 years, but
no.
Okay, whatever. We'll call it 15. Sure.
Yeah. What happened is that in Romania, because of the energy crisis, the price of energy went up. So last year you could get back maybe 50% of your investment in about 8 months. And now it's at about, maybe it's a 7 to 11% ROI, depending on the price that you charge for the fitting and installing. But since we do our own work, for us, that's pretty low. Like we can get fitted solar power plants with the transformer, with just about everything except the price of the land, for about 500 euro per kilowatt.
And what per like for okay, and then for the land, I'd imagine that's where it can get tricky because you probably need a significant amount of land mass.
You need
for all the
about
panels.
5,000 to 6,000 square meters.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And square meter for this type of construction is about 5 to 20 euro per square meter.
Do you partner with landowners or do you buy the land yourself?
Actually, we're only doing this because we want to get the security token out. We want to tokenize it as a proof of concept. So what we're doing is we're selling a part of a plant that we already have.
Did you guys see this in the news during the week? There's a solar panel array in Nebraska that got destroyed by hail.
Yeah.
The only ones that are black are the ones that are remaining. Everything else that's like whited out here is just destroyed.
Yeah.
Solar panels.
we actually have insurance for that. Technically, when you fit the solar panels on top of a building, there are a utility of the building, so you don't have to pay insurance separately, which would cost a lot more because you're insuring something that's fragile.
Yeah. Here in the States, it would be slightly different. If it's commercial, then usually it falls under that umbrella. For residential, you need to get your own individual policy on that. The whole thing's interesting.
Yeah, the hail is a big issue.
Yeah.
One thing that's a big issue also is the moral, like new solar panels, which are going to be much more efficient and cheaper, are coming out. They're going from 22% efficiency up to about 35.
Finally.
Yeah, which is a big improvement. It's a 50% improvement. Like you need 50% less.
Right.
Yeah.
The biggest problem was, so back in 2015, the entire solar industry got in huge trouble in the United States because the EPA did their 20-year solar study, and they were supposed to have gotten to the closer to the 40% efficiency mark, and they were like, "You're only 22% efficiency after 20-something years. Why have we been giving you guys billions of dollars all this time, and what have you done with it?" So there's a lot of begging that kind of went on, and they got in some pretty big trouble back in 2015 here.
What did you say the efficiency got to? You said 50% now?
No. 35-ish.
Or 35.
35, which is still an improvement. So I saw this automotive review the other day on a Prius Prime, which has a solar roof now. And apparently, if you park it for 2 days, you can get 8 miles of range just by leaving it in the sun for 2 days. It's not a lot, but if you're the kind of person that works from home and you park your car in a sunny driveway,
it adds up.
Yeah.
And this is just on the roof of the car. Like if you have it on the hood, the roof, and possibly the trunk of a car, I think that it's getting to the point where it might be start to look more viable, right?
Well, the problem is you need a lot of surface area, right, in order to get the charge. That's why usually when you see the solar panel roofs, they're usually powering very small minor auxiliary systems like air conditioning, things like that.
Calculators.
Yeah, basically. And so, that's the big challenge that to try and scale out solar has is that you need an incredible amount of surface area or land mass in order to make it viable for plugging into the grid at a very large scale. So what we really need is we just need nuclear, but it has really, really terrible PR. So hopefully they can turn that around in the next 10 years.
Jake, this is kind of your wheelhouse. You've been quiet on the whole solar thing. What do you think?
Yeah.
Or you limit people's travel so they can only go so far with the whole 15-minute city thing. But I've had pushback from Hydro about upgrading people's services for car chargers because they only have so much capacity. They'd have to upsize all their transformers and all the infrastructure, and it's going to be a massive investment if everything goes electric.
Well, the other side though too is that we physically do not have the capacity to actually to get all the lithium, cobalt, and materials to make the batteries. We don't have the physical capacity to actually meet that projected anticipated demand. We'd like literally have to go 10 times the amount of output production, which of course would make the guys that run all the mines with all the slaves. I mean, free laborers. Yes, very happy. But yeah, so there's that physical constraint. But a lot of times policymakers, they make these very aggressive timetables that they just kind of pull a number out, and then it sparks the industry, but they can always kick the can down further. Okay, not 2030, we'll make it 2040. Okay, not 2040, we'll make it 2050. So it's try and usher it in that direction. But yeah, there's still a lot of
you have to kickstart the industry somehow too. Definitely makes sense. And I do like the idea of solar and whatnot, and you have to make sure there's money in it for innovators to actually get there and increase the efficiency and everything. But it's dreaming to think it's going to happen by like 2030 or 2035 or anything.
Well, also the energy costs are expected to go up by like 3 times over the next 15 years. So that's going to be a really interesting situation to see what happens, especially like if the price of electricity really starts rocketing up, because that's what people are thinking about. It's like, oh yeah, like electricity is like super crazy cheap now. It's like, that's now. When you start spiking a lot more demand on the load, then you're going to see a natural rise, or your utility could rewrite your tariff rate and completely change how you're built. And there's not much that you can do.
Yeah.
Everybody in California would have with their gas bills.
You transform kilowatts into miles, like how many kilowatts for 100 miles or MPG, whatever the notion you want to use. And it's about 20 to 25 kilowatts per 100 kilometers, right?
So,
and you take let me get the math here, because it's going to be interesting for you. You take the amount of cars that you want to replace for electric cars, and you write down how many miles those cars do, and you take a look at how much energy you would need to transport to fuel those cars with energy, and there's not enough grid anywhere on Earth to do 30% of the cars on the road to be electric. And the only thing that can solve that is batteries.
Yeah, but batteries are a big problem, as Renegade pointed out. I was just curious what the solar roof upgrade is on the Toyota Prius. I had suspected it would have been $1,000 or more, but it's only $610, which is actually reasonable. So now they're getting it to the point where it's like, okay, if there's efficiency to get you 8 miles over 2 days of parking time for $610, you'll definitely get your money's worth owning that car for at least a year and a half to have that upgrade. So there's movement in definitely the right direction for stuff like this.
Yeah, the technologies are, the interplay between the technologies is being further and continuously developed, but that's still the cost of energy is steadily going up. And so
have you ever driven a Prius? Has anybody ever driven a Prius? Because I mean, like the last Toyota that I drove was a Toyota Camry, and I think I drove a Lexus ES, which is basically Camry based. It was a hybrid. They're so boring to drive. That's the problem that I have with these cars is they suck the life out of you. Like they take the wind out of your sails. They're, for a petrol head like me, that's always like fast cars, to drive one of these cars is like soul sucking murder practically.
They are transportation. Not cars.
A to B, not cars or transportation. That's probably a good way to put it. Yeah.
I've driven quite a few, like for friends or whatnot. So
do you think that you could ever have one as a daily driver? Like if you're forced to have a plug-in hybrid or like an electric, like a boring ass electric car, like a Bolt or like low powered Tesla 3 or something like that, do you think that you could own one of those as a daily? Like, would you be okay with it?
Well, it depends on what you're using it for. Like, if you're just sitting in the back of it while it self-drives itself to your work to get groceries, then a lot of people may not necessarily care what their quote-unquote car looks like. It's just transportation, like Renegade.
Or drives like more specifically, yeah.
The only complaint I have is that the interior is shit.
On the lower price point was like the cheap ones, like they're very plasticky and cheap.
Yeah, I mean,
but I mean, like once
you
you've
can
been
get
in a
a
nice car, you can't go back to a crap car, like a cheaper car. But I
Yes,
mean, the
but
average
also
person that's
for-
never had a car that, you know, you hand them the keys to a Prius, they might be like, oh, this is nice.
I understand. What's your price point?
My price point?
No. What's the price point for this car that you're hypothetically talking about?
This is a $33,445 car, according to this Google search.
Okay,
Well,
so yeah, 30 grand
You
range.
can't have a lot of expectations from a $33,000 car. I mean,
What's
what I
also
wanted to say is that for the same money, BMWs are much nicer on the interior, Mercedes, Audi, than Tesla. I mean, for the people that get the screen, they get
You're
it.
saying that
They
Teslas
like
are
it.
nice interiors?
No. I'm saying that for the same money, like for 50K, you get a better interior in an Audi, a BMW, or a Mercedes than you get in a
right. But you're paying 20 grand or more than you are for the Prius, right? So
that's it's not a good comparison.
But I mean, you know, it depends on what you want. Like if you want just that grocery getter, right, that will kind of like get you kind of putter about, and you don't have to care about it, right? Like a tree could fall on, you're like, oh, okay, it's fine. You know, it's nice where you don't have to go to the gas station, right? So there is a strong use case for it, especially like in more city or urbanized centers. Me as a pure car guy, though, it's like my notion of like a daily is radically different than 90% of the population. So I understand why also there's a very large amount of interest in this, because again, you can have the convenience of not having to go to a gas station with just the practicality of being able to kind of putter around, go back and forth. As long as you're not taking it on like a long road trip or expecting like any kind of performance out of it. So,
not to mention with everything getting more bland, like 50 Shades was talking about earlier with fashion too, no one really seems to care anymore. Like there are the car guys that are interested in some performance and it being more of a experience being in the vehicle, but a lot of people just don't seem to give a shit either.
And I think it's kind of that same way with like Jake had said with everything. Even if you look at the computers back in the day, like you go build your own computer and you'd have all these different things that you'd add to it. And now there are like people that do their own builds, but for the most part, people don't give a shit. They'll just buy whatever from Best Buy, or they'll buy whatever from Apple. Like nobody quite gives a shit about computers the way they did back in the 90s or the 80s when companies like Apple and Microsoft were started, and the whole thing was a lot more new. And I think we're kind of moving that way with a lot of things with the commodification. And it'll happen with cars as well, just with the electric engines. People just won't give a shit about what car they drive because they're all going to be pretty much the same, in the same way that all computers now are pretty much the same for the most part.
Yeah. I have an example about how much like people would care. My dad has a few cars, and he also has a BMW i3, which is a car I bought in 2017. And we wanted to sell it, and he's like, he told me like, don't sell it, give it to me. I want to drive it for a few weeks. I want to see if I like it. He never sold it. The family bought 3 more i3s. Anyway, the point is that when he's doing just going from home to the office, he absolutely loves the car, to the point where he's using it almost every day. When he wants to go out of city or for a longer trip, or he needs more trunk space, he's got the X5. But otherwise, it covers a lot of your day-to-day needs. And it's pretty good, and it's pretty convenient. Like you don't go to the gas station, you don't have the service requirements. It's pretty useful.
You're talking about an i3, right? Is that a plug-in hybrid or what is that?
It's electric, but you have the option of
it's got the gas motor to recharge it, so it's got
a range extender.
But is it a plug-in? Like it's a plug-in battery setup?
It's a plug-in battery, yeah.
Okay.
It's a little small one, which again, like for a lot of people, right? Because there's going to be the niche, and then there's going to be the mass market, right? And mass market, it's just like, well, we just kind of want to go back and forth, get from A to B, not necessarily care. And again, yes, I do 100-mile coffee runs and I don't even drink coffee, right? So I'm like, I'm just driving. No, now magically in the canyons, and this is great. And now I'm on cruising above the beach, and now I'm back home. I forgot to get the coffee. So that's definitely not the typical use case. Which, I mean, to me, I kind of like, because then it makes like the performance cars that we love like stand out even more. So it makes them like even kind of more of an occasion.
I wonder how long it's going to be before the sheeple, the masses, start to revolt against all gas-powered cars.
Probably 10, 15 years.
They're going to need the infrastructure in place to make it more practical first before they can make it.
No.
Before that can happen.
No.
So,
once the cost of electricity spikes, you'll see pushback. It seems pretty nice and cheap right now, but then when it ends up 3 times more expensive to run an electric car than a gas, then you'll start to see some get hit in the
are
fan,
they
I think.
are they building more infrastructure when it comes to generating electricity, Jake? Or is
not
it
really
not really keeping up?
Not really.
Because I mean,
Honestly,
like, you really need like nuclear power plants to pump out shitloads of electricity, right?
It's
and I don't
hard to
think
do.
there's any being built right now in Canada anyway.
But even the infrastructure as far as the roads go, who's going to pay for that? A lot of the taxes on gasoline go towards fixing the roads. Where's that money going to come from?
They're going to tax the electric cars as well. What do you think?
But you can use electricity for other things, right? Versus the gas tax. It makes sense for them to apply the gas tax to the roads.
They'll charge you by miles, because all of these cars are going to be connected by 4G, 5G.
Well, what's funny is that the biggest investors in the alternative fuel space, as well as alternative technologies like solar, wind, and even some electric vehicle technology, it's all the big oil and gas companies. Yeah. So they're the biggest investors in all of this. So they're already ready to corner the market and gobble up. So people think like Chevron, we're going to like stick to Chevron and they're going to like go under. It's like, no. They're like prepared to make sure they capitalize on everything.
Regarding
a lot of people, it's like, what makes you think that the thing that replaces gas isn't going to be worse? In that with electric cars, they can just shut your car off, or like Drago said, they can see how many kilometers or miles you've driven and charge you based on that. To me, that's a lot worse than
also regarding the sheeple. When they're going to start protesting against gas-powered cars.
I mean, they're already protesting against oil. You see these weirdos in the United Kingdom sitting on the roads with their stupid signs. Like, they're the biggest soy plebs in the world. Like, 80-year-old men are like walking over to them and picking them up and moving them.
They've already proven to us they're idiots and can be idiots. Look what's happening in Germany. They closed down the nuclear power plants because they wanted to go green. And now they have to use coal. So now they're ending up polluting more than they would have if they were using nuclear.
Well,
not even coal. Some of them are going and burning wood.
Biomass.
All the coal that they're getting is coming from Russia, right? So it's like, you just made yourself dependent on that.
That's why they don't have innovation. That's why they don't have like the stuff that they do have is like, how can I say, the cars, a few other stuff, but they've fallen behind the US. And they cannot, they're not, what's the word I'm looking for here? When you create the necessary conditions for innovation to happen.
Yeah, I mean,
fostering.
So the U.S. right now is poised within like the next 15 to 20 years to become the world's largest energy exporter in the entire world. Just because we already are the biggest natural gas exporter, but with all known oil reserves, right? About approximately 70-something% of them reside in North America. Of that, the United States has direct control of about 85% of them, roughly. So we're just sitting on a ton of oil that we haven't even like refined, manufactured, like nothing. And we're just waiting for everybody else to start burning through some of their reserves. So the U.S. is like very, very strategically positioned itself to be the dominant force in the energy market.
Guys,
a lot of that oil. Sorry, Dragos.
I got to bounce.
See you, man.
Be safe. It's been great talking to you.
Buddy.
Cheers.
A lot of that oil is stuck in the shale and the tar sands in Canada, though, isn't it?
There's quite a bit of it up there, but there's United States countries or companies that own the rights to those reserves. So
but I mean, the thing with oil sands is it doesn't make sense to extract that stuff unless dollars, whatever the price of oil is, like 70 or 80 bucks a barrel. And the same thing with shale fracking is it's a little bit more expensive to extract it. So at low oil prices, it's better to buy it from the Middle East than it is to extract it. But again, guys, there's still that synthetic fuel that they're talking about making, which Porsche's made a big investment in a South American company that can make it for about 50 bucks a gallon right now, and it burns just like regular fuel. And that's just that like first attempt. Like you give them 20 years to refine the process, they'll get the price down, and it's completely carbon neutral because all they do is they extract carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, mix it with a few other chemicals, and it burns like gasoline. And then the carbon dioxide comes out of the tailpipe again, so it's carbon neutral. It's, you know, you take it out and you put it back in, sort of thing.
Yeah, which that's going to be really interesting to see how that goes and develops, and see if they can actually. Like,
I like that.
Out. I
really like that about Porsche. They've innovated to the point where they're like, we have so many 911 owners that love our cars and they never break and they run forever, so we have to figure out ways to sell them fuel.
Well, it's that, and it's also like we changed the headlights once, and they all revolted, so we're never doing that again. Like, they have unintentionally created their own cult because when the 996 Porsche came out, and everybody's like, "You changed the headlights."
Those are pretty ugly headlights. Yeah,
you killed the company, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, it's they unintentionally created a cult." And so
it's like when BMW changed the front grille of the M3 to that new version they have in today's car.
Yeah,
people are still mad about that.
I don't know, like, why they're doubling down so hard. Like, is the CEO's son the guy who drew it up, or does the designer have blackmail on? Or what? They're doubling down really hardcore on that. We're just like, guys, they even admit, like, oh yeah, well, it's controversial, but don't worry, we know what we're doing. Like, do you really?
Yeah, is what it is. I got to bounce in like 5 minutes. Is there anything else you guys wanted to table before we go?
I think we touched on most of it.
All right. Hell yeah, guys. So we'll see you guys pretty soon. We'll be on Monday night, 8 p.m. for the Unplugged Alpha podcast. But yeah, you guys can find Renegade on Instagram. He also does crypto and dating coaching. And Jake and Big Black are under the radar sort of stuff. But yeah, thanks for tuning in.